Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a really cool review for you from the brand Islander Watches. Now, basically a little bit about them is after many years of being an online dealer via Long Island Watch, the owner, Marc, as you guys might have seen on many of their online, their own online videos and ads, they go a little something like this. Hey, this is Marc from Long Island Watch. Sorry, Marc, that was my best impression from one Marc to another. But basically, after being an online dealer for a long time, Marc decided to basically start having his own models produced. And their current focus is on essentially providing what many would see as just basically a ready-made Seiko Mod timepiece, that's basically even compatible with current existing aftermarket Seiko Mod parts, like bracelets, bezels, crystals, etc. So I think that's really cool. And obviously, my channel, you guys know I'm a big advocate for Seiko Mods. And what made me want to look at this particular model and just the Islander line in general is that, one, I know there's a really big part of my viewership that have smaller wrists and are looking for smaller watches, and the SKX013 has been something that I think is on a lot of people's radars. And also, as being a dad, for my son, as he kind of gets older and a little bit more mature, I'm always looking for smaller sports watches and automatic timepieces, when it comes to something that I could gift him and something that I could feel okay with him wearing and not worry about him destroying due to the cost or kind of the specialness or kind of limited availability-ness of it. And what the great thing is here they're really offering you what many would consider kind of a poor man's Marine Master mod, for those of you that are in the Seiko community, the Seiko Mod community. And it even has a Seiko movement, which is great. So a 38mm diver. This is the Islander 38mm, and it costs under $300. It's $299, which is an outstanding price considering everything you're getting. This is kind of what I think the fans have been asking for from Seiko. So big props to Marc for being able to offer that to us. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. All right. So now, before we get too far into this, I did want to bring the packaging on. I mean, typically I don't do a lot of unboxings on the channel, but because, Island watches, they're basically newer, right? I did want to actually show you guys how things are packaged. Because, it's not like the basic box that you might see on from other brands, whatnot. This is a newer brand, so I figure I'd share the experience with you guys. So really nice. Also, which came in for review, is their Pepsi style model here. So we'll go ahead and let me, if I can do that with the gloves on. Okay, as you guys can see, really cool, all ceramic as well, pretty much the same specs, and we're gonna be examining the black model, but I did want to give those of you who are thinking about possibly picking up the Pepsi model to really get a look at the way the color plays. As you can see, really nice and very reminiscent of even Seiko's own color motif, where there's just that really deep dark blue dial that can almost in certain lights look black, right? And then you can see that it's actually a really deep navy, and then you have this really cool ceramic fully loomed bezel insert, really nice. Of course, everything is wrapped up nice and tidy. So really great points for that. But yeah, I did want to get a look at that so you guys could just kind of see how the colors render here on the channel. But the model that we're really going to be looking at is right here, guys. So earlier I kind of mentioned the poor man's Marine Master, and essentially in the Seiko Mod community, that that references that, of course, the Marine Master, right, has always been the top dog as far as Seiko's dive watch lineup goes. And essentially, modders have been taking the Marine Master dial and whatnot and basically making premium SKX mods, and just calling them kind of poor man's Marine Masters. So here you get this thing fully loaded right out of the box. I mean, if I was to try to get something like this sourced together, it can be upwards of $600 in kind of parts and labor, all combined, depending on who you go to. Yeah, there's always going to be cheaper guys out there, but honestly, when it comes to having something custom modded for you, I'm not somebody who tends to kind of skimp out. So in this case, having something like this just fully kind of done, I think is great. And then the fact that you can actually still upgrade it, I think makes it even more enticing. So you can still put on a strap code bracelet if you wanted to. If you just absolutely had to have a milled clasp or, drilled, link. I'm sorry, not drilled, but if you needed screw-in connector pins versus push pins. Here though, look, you can see you already have the drilled lugs. That's something else you pay extra for when you're getting mods done, is having somebody drill out the lugs if they're not already drilled. So really cool. Obviously, you're gonna have a sapphire. You're gonna have all the modern amenities, really, when you think about it, because you're gonna have the sapphire bezel insert. You're gonna have ceramic bezel insert with sapphire with the AR coating, and as you can see, it does a great job really making that dial quite clear and almost like you can touch it, because it really does navigate those even the studio lights here where they're hyper reflective. It really does a great job of kind of negotiating those so that you can get a nice look at that beautiful, very nice dial with applied indices, which is great versus your typical SKX013, which is going to be just printed dial. So you're really getting a lot of bang for your buck. Again, and then I think what you guys are really going to enjoy is the Lume on this thing. So this is basically kind of what people have kind of idealized Seiko would do, is that they would add all the bells and whistles but not up the price, because I mean, at the end of the day, at $299, and that's direct from the manufacturer, it's an outstanding deal, right? That's comparable to gray market for some, Seikos now, as they're starting to dwindle down in some of these cases as they are rolling out newer models. Now, basically, we did talk about the diameter, and it did kind of come across the screen, but we'll talk about it again. 38 millimeters across. And then you have 13 millimeters thick, and then only 45 and a half lug to lug, which I think is really outstanding. So that's quite a nice footprint, and really can fit quite comfortably on most any wrist. The sapphire is a flat one, which is great for legibility. You do have a 120 click bezel. A little quiet, but I don't know if it's even registering right now. But very SKX-like in that it's very smooth, not super like, I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Clicky. It's definitely a much smoother operation. So for those of you that are looking for a very OEM-like experience for what you would expect from Seiko, that's definitely there for you. The only difference is everything lines up. So that's something that you don't always get with a genuine Seiko sports watch. So very nice on that part. And I'm sure a lot of that also has to do with Marc being an avid Seiko fan himself. Now, inside, you're going to have the Seiko Instruments NH36, although this is basically just a sealed case back there, as you can see. Still really nicely done with some fine etching done there. But basically, the NH36 is kind of the brethren to the 4R36, so you're going to get the day and the date complication, which is nice. And then, of course, everything is matted on the dial and that chapter ring, except you're going to be getting that, Swiss Super Luminova. Assuming this is C3 because this thing blasts absolutely, which is nice because when you look at it, it's not super greenish, right? It actually looks quite white in daylight, but when you see that when this actually goes, it's actually probably, I'd say, a little bit closer to it, almost a touch of ivory. So not like a pure white like you might see on a C1 or a BGW9, but definitely a lot less green in hue than you're going to get from your typical C3 application. So maybe this isn't C3, maybe this is like X1 grade. I don't know. They don't get too deep into it, but needless to say, I'm very impressed with, one, how white it is in daylight, and two, how green it is while glowing. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Oh, wow. Okay. Now, as far as the water resistance goes, you're going to get 200 meters, which is great, and it's really as much water resistance as you're ever going to need. You have solid links, solid end links. You're gonna have this, really Seiko-like, definitely, milled clasp here. I'd say even the folding portion, some might even consider slightly better and feeling a little bit more, I guess, a little tougher than your basic kind of really thin stamped Seiko folding clasps. And then you're going to have this really cool Jubilee style bracelet, which I think is very classic. And I think really what does this watch the most justice is the taper on it. As you can see, guys, it does taper down to 16 millimeters. So 20 millimeter link at the end link, and then down to 16 millimeters. Then it allows you to have an 18 millimeter clasp, which is absolutely, for me anyway, a real magic proportion, because you get that much more aggressive taper, which means it's going to be a lot more comfortable on the wrist. And for those of you that are like me that might wear your watches a little bit looser and a little bit lower, closer to the hand, on the other side of the wrist bone, that's going to be a big deal for you. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get this piece on the wrist. All right, as you can see on the wrist, as you might expect on my 7 1/4" wrist, this is not a huge diver, but you know what? With that Jubilee, with that basic black and steel kind of layout, it still looks really good, I think. It's definitely smaller than the typical watch I would wear, especially for a sports watch. I do wear, more everyday pieces in that 38 range. But I think this one is really great at kind of making its visual heft felt, while even offering a little bit of heft on the wrist, because it is a very solid piece. You got the ceramic, you got a thicker sapphire, you're going to have solid links and whatnot versus your basic hollow that you would be getting from Seiko. And I think that looks really great. I'm definitely more of an SKX 007 or 009 size guy with my 7 1/4" wrist, but this thing wears absolutely great. As you can see, looks way more refined. And then the nice thing is that you're getting all the modern amenities. You're getting ceramic, you're getting sapphire, you're getting solid, pretty much everything. Drilled lugs. I mean, can't really argue with that. Hacking hand windable movement, another huge thing, which is really kind of, I can live with hardlex and aluminum inserts and even having to switch out a bracelet immediately after buying it. But one thing I just cannot forgive anymore are non-hacking movements. I don't know, I just have to have them. I can't forgive it on a man on the moon Omega Speedmaster, so I'm sure not going to forgive it on something like an older Seiko. So really great to kind of have it's something, again, that's very akin to its actual Seiko brethren, since they do share movements, and of course really very similar specs, so similar that I could pick up a strap code bracelet also from Long Island Watch and put it on here if I wanted to. So if I wanted to put on a 3-link oyster style bracelet, I could do that. If I wanted to switch out maybe to a coin edge bezel, I'm sure if they make one for the SKX013, I could swap it out onto here. So there's so many options. Even if I wanted to, I could put a genuine Seiko dial in there if I really wanted to. So it's one of those things that it offers you just infinite amount of options, but just right out of the box. So I think that's a really cool and unique way to kind of get people who aren't super concerned with the fact that, okay, well, it's maybe not the same prestige as having one of these kind of low quantity, lower volume. I shouldn't say lower. They had such high volume when they were first produced that they're just so widely available still. But now, as they get a little bit more scarce, you're seeing some dealers start to kind of wisen up and raise the prices. But one thing I did want to mention is, of course, as you can see, I do have it lower on my wrist, essentially past the wrist bone here, a little bit looser. But I do have great articulation, and one of the reasons why is, of course, that great contouring on the casing, as well as this nice dramatic taper. And then you add in here that you can actually, you have these much shorter, more comfortable links here in the Jubilee style setup. So really, really comfortable. I'm actually surprised as I look through the viewfinder, essentially, really how good this looks. I was expecting it to appear much smaller on camera. I think it actually looks really good, even if I throw a little extra arm in there. I think that actually looks really cool. So let's actually go ahead and move into some Lume shots and some low light transition. All right, we'll go ahead and hit the lights here. Oh man, as you can see, that is some really, really strong Lume. And that's kind of why I'm assuming C3, just because of how green and how bright it's it's showing up. Even the bezel insert is super bright, and you can probably only get so much Lume in those little crevices and whatnot. So really impressed. Very, very sharp as far as the application goes. You guys can see everything appears really nice. You're not seeing a lot of soft edges or anything like that. But one thing I also like to do in these videos is do my low light transition, guys, because you're not always going to be in out in direct sunlight on the middle of a field or something. Sometimes you're just going to be coming out of a building, in and out of your vehicle, and you're going to have a little bit more of the harsher lighting transitions and whatnot. And it's nice to kind of see, one, how legible this thing is within transition, where you're going from something that's well lit to not so well lit, and then also even some harsher lighting situations. As you can see, the contrast is going to be a little bit sharper here, and you're going to actually be able to see the brushing, the way the light kind of rolls over it, and you get a little bit of an idea of the quality of the fit and finish. Now, this is not meant to be a luxury timepiece. It's not like Marc set out to create an actual Marine Master. This definitely is the poor man's Marine Master. But you know what? It's giving you kind of those base elements all turned up, right? It's not Grand Seiko quality finishing by any means, but it definitely is, really nice. I've seen finishing similar to this in watches that costed over $500. So it's giving you those very similar transitions and breaks as far as the transitions between brushed and polished. You can see right along the outside of the case where it transitions right there from brushed to polished. Really razor sharp, guys. Look at that. Really nice. So from here, we'll hit the lights back on and kind of cover, on the wrist again. Classic mid-sized SKX013 proportions, works really well, still feels quite sporty even at the smaller size. As far as model variant goes, of course you get the black dial here, and there's also the blue dial option with the Pepsi bezel insert like I showed you guys as well, which is a really cool option, and definitely very versatile when it comes to kind of that red, white, and blue motif. Now, as far as comparable models go, I'd say, apart from, of course, an SKX013 or 013 Mod, there have been kind of those Asian eBay specials that have been making a living off kind of quote-unquote pre-made Seiko mods, right, that aren't using all factory Seiko parts, but basically cashing into kind of that group of people that want a little bit of a splash of color, or sometimes upgrades in movements or parts and components and whatnot. So the nice thing is, although there's always been those kind of like really low end and kind of sketchy options out there, the Islander line basically has delivered a true option, and I think to a genuine Seiko mod, and adding really a much overdue modern, amenities choices you know, like of course upgrades in movements and materials. That's really where you're getting the bang for your buck here. You're getting the hacking hand windable movement. You're going to be getting, as far as materials go, you're getting sapphire, you're getting ceramic, you're getting a solid build, you're getting drilled lugs. So you're getting all those things that normally you'd have to kind of pay a la carte for as you're upgrading your watch, really just right out of the gates, which is absolutely wonderful. So, you know, Marc is really producing what many Seiko fans have been asking for of Seiko for a really long time now, at a price point that genuinely rivals, you know, quote unquote down spec original models, right? Because that's what you would have to say to an SKX013 at this point. It would be down spec, probably higher up in prestige, you know, I guess genuinely higher up in prestige, because Seiko's been around since what, 1881. So at this point though, you can have a lot with, I mean, I don't think this is going to be anyone's grail watch, but as far as kind of like a daily, I mean, just I think what most people kind of buy an SKX for, this totally fulfills that need, right? You can now have it with all the modern amenities, and you know, you are a bit of, because of the way it looks and kind of what it offers, to most of the indoctrined people who recognize the watch, they would think it's just a Seiko Mod. So it's not like you're losing kind of any credit points on that. The fact that you would own something like this, you're not buying it on accident. So really, you're somebody who appreciates the Seiko aesthetic and what they have to offer, and you just might need something that's just, you know, the quality is just a little bit better for you and has generally better starting specs at a really decent asking price. I mean, $299, I was blown away when I looked at the price, because I just think about how much I would spend having something like this modded to the same spec. So it's pretty great deal out there, guys. So let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.